हेलो स्टूडेंट्स, जैसा कि आप देख पा रहे हैं वॉल्ट विटमैन, वी हैड discussed that we will go for Walt Whitman and Robert Frost in this session. So I have designed this lecture for you on a very net eccentric platform, that I'm not going to teach you the details of Walt Whitman. Why? Because it is already given in my study books. ओके, सो वॉल्ट व्हिटमैन कौन था, कब पैदा हुआ, कहाँ पैदा हुआ, क्या था, कैसे था, उसने क्या क्या लिखा, दैट इज टू बी रेड बाय यू फ्रॉम माय स्टडी मटेरियल बुक. एंड टुडे I will give you that lecture which combines actually the leaves of grass, which is known with the name of Walt Whitman. कि अगर Walt Whitman का हम नाम लेते हैं, then the leaves of grass is automatically to be named. And the leaves of grass was first published in 1855, when on the American Day of Independence, and he presented the copies to many, and he himself wrote many reviews of this poem, Leaves of the Grass. And in one review, Walt Whitman has called himself an American bard at last. An American bard, B-A-R-D, at last, with quote unquote. And with primitive accents and crude tones, he appeared as a bard, as a singer of songs, and put into practice Emerson's doctrine of self-reliance. And he has put in another review that steps Walt Whitman into literature, talking like a man unaware that there was ever such a production as this book, or such a being as a writer. He considered himself to be the bard, the seer of America. And this seer, Walt Whitman, looked into the present and sought the significance of a blade of grass. Blade of grass, एक single grass की क्या अहमियत है? He never forgot that he was also a Democrat. Emerson wrote a letter praising the poem, and it began with the words, I greet you at the beginning of a great career. ये लाइन लिखा है एमर्सन ने विटमैन के लिए, I greet you at the beginning of a great career. And Whitman hurriedly brought forth a second edition in 1856, using Emerson's name and a part of the letter on the spine of the new text. New poems were added in every new edition, and 1860 gave the third edition. And here he was able to establish his identity. अब वो दो लाइन शायद आपको याद हो, अगर किसी ने विटमैन की लीव्स ऑफ ग्रास को पढ़ा है. वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट लाइन्स. ही हैज established his identity by saying, I celebrate myself and sing myself, and what I assume, you shall assume. For every atom belonging to me as good belongs to you also. His companions were the commoners, not too important and the celebrated. He held that an individual can be formed so in freedom as to possess the qualities that make a superb nation. And he uses himself as an illustration because he represents the divine average, and because he does not know any other thoroughly. And the Civil War inspired him to compose a series of poems which is entitled Drum Traps. D-R-U-M, then taps. Drum Taps. And this was made in 1865. ये किसने इंस्पायर किया था? The Civil War inspired him to compose a series of poems which was entitled Drum Taps. And to these were appended later the poems on Lincoln. And yes, don't forget that the fifth edition also came in 1871. And this fifth edition, which came in 1871, came along with Democratic Vistas. Democratic Vistas. The fifth edition came along with this. Good afternoon, all of you. This fifth edition in 1871 came along with Democratic Vistas. And unfortunately, he had a paralytic stroke in 1873. And in the May of the same year, 1873, his mother died. He became very much depressed and dejected. And because of this depression and dejection, he moved to Camden, Camden. And somewhere in his poem, because of this depression and dejection, he has written few lines, which I still remember. और वो line है, a battered, ragged old man, a battered, ragged old man, thrown on this savage shore, far, far from home, pent by the sea and dark rebellious brows, 12 dreary months, sore, stiff, and many toils, sickened and nigh to death, I take my way along the island's edge, venting a heavy heart. So such was his depression, such was his despair, such was his agony and dejection that he has written about himself when he moved to Camden. And he became a battered, ragged old man. माँ वो चीज होती है, माँ का रिप्लेसमेंट आसान नहीं है. सो ये बेहतरीन पोएम उसने अपने माँ के जाने पे लिखा. एंड यस, now the sixth edition. The sixth edition of Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass appeared in 1876, and that appeared in two volumes. Two volumes. And the arrival of his English admirer, N.A. Gilchrist, relieved him of the loneliness of his spirit. जो वो कहीं न कहीं अकेलापन था, वो alienation था. With the arrival of this admirer, great admirer, N.A. Gilchrist, because of this arrival, this basically relieved him of a lot of loneliness of the spirit of Walt Whitman. And in 1879, Whitman undertook a tour of the western part of the country. The wild, free spirit of the land was already an integral part of his poetic spirit. And this tour revealed the validity of the earlier poetic communion with the land. The seventh edition again came of the Leaves of Grass, which came in 1881. And the eighth edition came in 1889. The ninth edition was on his deathbed edition. जब वो राइप एज में ऑलमोस्ट डेथ के बहुत करीब हो चुका था, उसको कहते हैं डेथ बेड एडिशन. That came in 1891 and 1892. Presents the final structure of the poem as he wished it should be. And each new edition represents a stage in the growth of the poem. Even the first edition clearly reveals the new voice of America. The new voice of America हर edition में आपको मिलेगा, even the first. Emerson observed, और उसने लिखा है Emerson ने, I find it the most extraordinary piece of wit and wisdom that America has yet contributed. I am very happy in reading Leaves of Grass, as great power makes us happy. I have great joy in it. I find incomparable things said incomparably well, as they must be. And I have found the courage of treatment, which so delights me, and which large perception only can inspire. So these immortal words by Emerson constitute even today the best introduction and the commentary on this book. And the preceding life of Whitman does not offer any explanation as to how the poet stumbled on the fine collection by 1855. He lived one life before the public and another to himself. और जो उसकी दूसरी वाली थी, the latter was busy preparing a poetic role. And the poem acquires a unity from its sketch of a new world personality, and he is the epic hero of democracy. From drum taps onwards, the hero is put to the test of war and national crisis. And there emerges a new tone, a new mood, and a new theme. The method of presentation by Whitman is subjective. As the individual grows, the poem too grows. And there is the dream of a new Adam who will bring forth a new race. The image of the triumphant modern man is presented as a way of removing all human evils. Some of the themes of Whitman are democracy, science, sexual energy, life, death, reconciliation of the contraries. Whitman offers to the reader his own love of life. And this love is rooted in the eternal values apprehended by a poet's eye. The poem is planned to startle the reader who is bound to be disturbed. And the growth of the poem is in reality the awakening of the self. It is a coming to consciousness of being alive. We are made to hear, to see, to taste, to feel in the new and the significant ways. We watch a personality developing an identity as it passes through a mystic evolution. His poems like Birds of Passage, Sea Drift, By the Roadside, we find personality in time identified with the varied moments in flux. And the Drum Taps group takes us to the Civil War, Autumn Rivulets, collection of poems, tells us of the experiences after the war, and the thematic growth is complete with whispers of heavenly death. From noon to the starry night and songs of parting. So there are two annexes wind up the poem. So this was a basic introduction of one of the most monumental epical works by Whitman, Leaves of Grass. इस 15 मिनट को लेक्चर के सुनने के बाद I am 100% sure that those who would have listened it properly, they can do wonders in the entire world if they are asked something about Whitman's Leaves of Grass, and in such easy language and in such a concentrated level of energy in this 15 minutes lecture, which definitely I am sure you would be satisfied with. Am I right? So, बीच बीच में मुझे सिर्फ ये बताते चला करिए स्टूडेंट्स कि यस सर आई अंडरस्टूड, क्योंकि हम अपने लेक्चर्स को सेक्शंस में बांट रहे हैं. एक सेक्शन खत्म हो गया, लीव्स ऑफ ग्रास का इंट्रोडक्शन खत्म. अब हमें बस केवल कुछ स्टूडेंट्स जल्दी जल्दी बताएं कि यस आर यू सेटिस्फाइड, कुड यू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट इज लीव्स ऑफ ग्रास. अब आपसे कोई पूछेगा लीव्स ऑफ ग्रास के बारे में, विटमैन के बारे में, तो क्या आप बता पाओगे? आप बिना सोचे, बिना समझे, बिना याद किए, बिना किताब पढ़े, आप यू विल बी एबल टू आंसर योर क्वेश्चन. इज इट राइट? करेक्ट. राइट इट डाउन. Vandana, good afternoon. And through this platform of my live lecture, I feel proud to say that one of my student, Vandana, she has qualified her Madhya Pradesh SET set examination, which she was actually looking forward. And God bless you, and your hard work and your energy level proved that yes, you are capable enough to qualify the NET examination coming 2019 June. And as Vandana, I am 100% sure that lot many students would be working courageously and intuitively, and there is no shortcut to success. अगर हम वंदना की भी बात सुने तो उसने भी बहुत पापड़ बेले हैं, हिंदी में जिसको कहावत कहते हैं, एंड नाउ शी इज एक्चुअली मोटिवेटेड दैट शी हैज समथिंग इन हर हैंड which is actually worth it. So God bless you, Vandana, and more laurels to come, and you will achieve it. Okay, so all of you students have written that you have understood this lecture well, and yes, somebody has asked about the fourth fourth edition. Fourth edition was in 1867. Fourth edition 1867. You can note it down. Fourth edition. Now, कोई भी क्वेश्चंस होगा आप पूछते चलना हमसे. हमें चलिए थोड़ा सा यहाँ पे रिलीफ होने का मौका मिला है. आप लोगों ने ये देखा कि अभी कल या परसों शाम को हमारे YouTube चैनल पे हमने कुछ लॉन्च किया है. हाउ मेनी स्टूडेंट्स हैव सीन दैट न्यू वीडियो विच इज समथिंग डिफरेंट, विच इज समथिंग, आई एम श्योर अगर आपने देखा होगा तो आपके मन में कुछ क्वेरीज आई होंगी, या आपने सोचा होगा कि सर से पूछेंगे. किसी ने देखा है उसको अभी तक जो हमने लॉन्च किया है? हमसे कोई पूछिए, हमसे बताइए तो हम आपको बता पाएंगे अगर देखा है स्टूडेंट्स ने. तो अगर आपने हमारे चैनल को सब्सक्राइब किया है, नोटिफिकेशन आपके पास आते हैं, तो जरूर से आपने हमारा लेटेस्ट वीडियो लॉन्च हुआ है वो 1-2 मिनट का, लेकिन क्या आपने उसको देखा है? हैव यू सीन इट? अच्छा, जतिन ने देखा है. आई थिंक मेनी ऑफ यू हैव नॉट सीन दिस, अदरवाइज सबका यस यस आ जाता अब तक. Yeah, this means कि only Jatin you have seen that video. Otherwise, rest of the students all over India, they have not. I think they have not seen that video. Yes, so if ever you get time, you can subscribe. First, subscribe the channel OSN Academy. So now we are moving to Whitman's some of his very important poems. क्योंकि इतना टाइम तो होगा नहीं हम लोग के पास कि एक एक चीज हम लोग कर पाएं, which is already given in my study materials. But some of the few poems I have chosen to be to share with you and to discuss with you. उसमें एक poem है When Lilacs Last. When Lilacs Last is basically a poem, is an American variety of elegy, and This poem opens in the manner of a traditional elegy, stating the uncontrollable grief of the poet. And by the end of the poem, the sorrow has subsided, and there is the mood of reconciliation. The dramatic tension of the elegy depends on the movement of the poet from one symbol to another, and the poem deals with love and death. It moves from the star to the lilac, then to the bird, then to the star, and finally to the hermit thrush. And so it is cyclic in structure. And the star refers to the historical fact of the assassination of Abraham Lincoln on 14th April 1865. And the lilac represents the poet's own sense of personal loss. And the bird is symbolic of his triumphant comment on death. And the assassination was in the season of spring, and the symbols exploit the season to the full. Lincoln is the powerful western fallen star, and the lilac has rebirth or resurrection, and the hidden bird refers to the poet and the power of poetry. And then the true subject of the elegy is the poetic process, and the poet is overpowered by his emotion of loving grief. And there is a subdued emotion emerging from the insight into the spiritual meaning of death. There are two strange companions called the knowledge of death and the thought of death. They follow him in his ritual retreat, and the purpose of the retreat is to praise death, and which is the ultimate democracy. उसमें दो लाइनें हैं बड़ी सुंदर सी. Come lovely and soothing death, विटमन कहता है, come lovely and soothing death, undulate round the world, serenely arriving, in the day, in the night, to all, to each, sooner or later, delicate death. This means death looks more like a bride. And the symbols have a musical development, and the effect of the poem depends on the three major symbols, and the symbols universalize the theme. The local particularity is happily absent. The universality of the great music enabled Whitman to overcome the particularity of the effect evoked by Tennyson in In Memoriam. And the poet assimilates the symbols in such a way as to give a finished structure. This he was able to do so because of his control of the different points of view, which are in the reality aspects of his creative self. And the universalization is so thorough that we know nothing about Lincoln from the poem. Whitman is actually paying tribute not to Lincoln but to death. And this American variety of elegy looks like a lyric melodrama where the personal becomes impersonal and abstract, and where the mourning nation appears as group of persons and as an abstraction. And like a true Whitman poem, its tensions and contradictions are those involved in the drama of the self. And the symbols are taken from the time of the year when Lincoln died. Spring as a constantly recurring season of birth, growth, freshness, and is a constant reminder of the Lincoln's death, which looks beyond to the cycle of life and death. And lilac is symbolic of fertility, of the miracle of birth, and it refers to eternal memory and love. And the bird as the voice of spirituality is a symbol of reconciliation. And the first section of this poem, The Lilacs, introduces the lilac and the star. These are related to the past and the future mourning. The undying grief for the death of a great man is voiced. The fourth line introduces the word Trinity, उसमें एक line है Trinity, which provides the structural basis. And the second section develops the star symbol. The thought of the dead is related to the fallen star, and the star is associated with night. It is a fallen star, the great star disappeared, and there is a departed brilliance. The poet's own grief is the cloud. And by the end of this section, we discover that the real theme is not the disappearance of the star, but his own grief. उसमें एक लाइन है, thought of him I love. The thought of him I love, which is mentioned in the first section, leads him to the life of the lilac. And the physical aspect of the lilac is introduced in the third section. It has heart-shaped leaves, and also the perfume strong I love. And the thought of the Lincoln is intimately fused with the odor of the lilac. And the poet breaks a spring with a flower, thereby extending the purpose of the symbol. And last, the third symbol is the introduction. In the fourth section, it is the hermit thrush singing alone in the swamp. It sings death's outlet song of life, and it is the song of the bleeding throat. It is symbolic of the lament of humanity. And with this section, the exposition is complete. Sensuous attributes are fused with abstract concepts. And the star theme as the counterpart of the coffin is intensified in the eighth, where woe, the drooping star, and the Lincoln's death get merged. And the night is in the background for the star, and it is a symbol of death and grief. And the soul is united with the star, not with the lilac. And the themes of the bird and the star are unified in the ninth. These two symbols are together present, calling him and detaining him. Then the sections 10, the section 11, the section 12, they actually form an interlude. And when the 13th section, he returns to the bed again. The bird's song becomes the human song of woe. And the star holds him and he hears the song. With mastering odor, the lilac holds him. His reaction to the death of Lincoln is represented in the next section, and the thought of death personifies the involuntary grief, and the knowledge of death refers to its true meaning as expressed in the song of the bird. And the bird, as the voice of nature, comforts him, receives him, and reveals to him that the voice of my spirit tallied the song of the bird. So the poet's flight into the darkness is fused with the stream of music of the bird, and the whole of nature is represented in the song. And the last section returns to the major symbols, where the night reveals the general idea of death, grief, the literal setting of the star, and the revelation of the bird. Now it signifies the total experience, and the poet emerges out of it with the dominant symbols. So the things which are so far unrelated to one another have come to the symbolic, a complex experience. In a way, it may be said that a poem is actually about its major symbols and their development, and the minor symbols include the west, the cruel hands, the cloud, the sun, the dark mother, and the echo. And the symbols are so well integrated that Swinburne, A.C. Swinburne, said that the poem is the most sonorous nocturne ever chanted in the church of the world. ये Swinburne ने कहा है इस poem के लिए. So this was the lilacs. So this was my second section of discussing After the Leaves of Grass, this special poem in detail, so that at least you can understand something more and more about Whitman's style of poetry, how he has written, and a lot of things to understand and to listen it through me. So just give me a few minutes. I'll come back again in 1 minute. By the time you just see See, Robert Frost, again a great poet, one of the greatest poets of America ever produced, जिसका पूरा नाम था रॉबर्ट ली फ्रॉस्ट. And when Robert Frost died, he had achieved a lot of recognition from poets, from politicians, writers in his lifetime. He was acclaimed as America's grand old man of poetry. And in Robert Frost, the American people have found their poet, their singer, their seer, and in short, their bard, B-A-R-D. You must not be knowing, students, that the late President Kennedy chose the venerable old man as the inaugural poet of the United States. और कैनेडी ने फ्रॉस्ट के बारे में कहा है, his life and his art summed up the essential qualities of the New England he loved so much. The fresh delight in nature, the plainness of his speech, the canny wisdom, and the deep underlying insight into the human soul. ये सारे शब्द और वाक्य ये कैनेडी ने फ्रॉस्ट के बारे में कहा है. And literary critics also have been most unreserved in praising Frost as a poet and as a man. If you might have studied in your MA finals, or you must be preparing for UGC NET, you must have noted down somewhere, you must have seen in my study material also, A Boy's Will. A Boy's Will. This is Robert Frost's first collection. And about this Boy's Will, Ezra Pound ने कहा है, one reads the book for the tone, which is so homely by intent and pleasing, never doubting that it comes direct from his own life and that no two lives are the same. So, equally significant as the recognition accorded to Frost's poetry is the distinction Frost won as a man during his lifetime. And while the critics have hailed his poems as modern classics, his government summoned him to participate in the august occasions of the state, which is something artists ought to celebrate. 4 times recipient of the Pulitzer Prize for Poetry and the other high awards and the academic distinctions, Frost was honored with the Medal of Honor from the Congress of the United States when he was 86 years of age. And as the inaugural poet, he sat with John Fitzgerald Kennedy, a New Englander himself, and the leaders of the state, bundled in a great overcoat, braving the bitter cold, intent on articulating every letter of the poem of Frost, that is, The Gift Outright. The Gift Outright, the poem selected for this occasion. And the winds were so cold, so rough, and the Frost's muscular, knotted hands shook with age as he tried to handle the pages of manuscripts. He put aside the pages, straightened up, and began to recite the poem in deep and the resonant tones. And the Americans hailed him as a truly national poet. Robert Frost was born on 26th of March, 1874, the first child of William Prescott Frost and his mother Isabel. The elder Frost, means his father, was a rebel from a New England Puritan family, and he was always on the move to search for adventure and riches. Though he could not have settled in New England practicing law, his venturesome spirit drove him to the far west where he wanted to make his fortune. San Francisco, the city of the yellow metal, arrested his westward moves, and he took up a job as a journalist. Robert's early life was full of excitement, was full of adventure, and his was a very strange childhood. Somebody has written in Robert Frost, the aim was song, blessed with parental love, with excitement, with tragedy. Excitement because the elder Frost put to test all his novel ideas about education and living on Robert, and tragic because he died of tuberculosis at the young age of 35, leaving his wife and two children. Two means after Robert Frost, Ginny was born after 2 years. And the young widow put together all the cents she had to pay for the freight of the dead body and the family back to Massachusetts. For she was bent on burying the body of the rebel in the homeland of his father and rearing up the children amid the New England situation. Thereafter, spending a time with the grandfather Frost, she took up a teaching job in a village. That village is near Salem, that is New Hampshire. Then Robert went to his mother's school and received the special attention he needed to catch up with the others of his age. But he also took up odd jobs during the spare hours to earn and the vacations to supplement the meager earnings of his mother. And within a short period of about 2 years, he progressed sufficiently to qualify for admission to a high school in Lawrence. And this was the same school where his father had attended. And here Frost burst into the full flower, both as a scholar and as a leader. Even then he began composing poems, the lines coming to him with unrestricted flow, one after the other. And so surprised was Frost at the muse coming to him with such ease and flow that he put together the lines and titled them La Noche Triste. La Noche Triste, उसको टाइटल किया, ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, which was published in the April 1890 issue of the Lawrence High School Bulletin. जो लॉरेंस हाई स्कूल का बुलेटिन था उसमें ये पहली बार पब्लिश हुआ, ला नोचे ट्रिस्टे. And the growth of the poem from this to A Boy's Will, which was published in London in 1913, 1890 से लेकर के 1913, 23 साल का सफर ला नोचे ट्रिस्टे से लेकर बॉयज विल तक was a tale of dedication, was a tale of duty, was a tale of hard labor. Robert was really not interested in college studies, though he went to Dartmouth College in Hanover. The routine studies and the stale teaching tired him utterly, and he took French leave of Dartmouth only months after he had joined it. And while in school, Frost fell in love with Eleanor White, who shared with him some honors. And at first, it seemed that the early attachment was doomed to failure. Eleanor, being a woman of flashy temperament, given to the pursuit of new ideas and newer people on a scale different from Robert. Robert, however, was very firm in his dedication and persistent in his approaches. And even during the school days, he used to walk Eleanor home from school. and decided that the twin happiness of his life should be to write poetry and to be with Eleanor. एक कि हम कविता लिखेंगे जीवन भर और एक दूसरा कि हम एलिनोर के साथ रहेंगे. At last, during the Christmas season of 1895, Robert and Eleanor became husband and wife. And it was actually a mere coincidence that Isabel returned to New England from the far western city of San Francisco after the death of her husband, and that Frost married Eleanor, a native of Massachusetts with a long New England heritage. New England occupies a central position in the American culture and history as the province which inspires scores of American writers to new ideas and the new modes of writing. चाहे वो लॉवेल हो, लॉन्गफेलो हो, हॉथॉर्न हो, इमर्सन हो, व्हिटियर हो, the New England luminaries gave American letters a status and a distinction of being unique, of being called true belles letters. Frost often took pride in the fact that he was New England origin and never missed an occasion to bring in light this aspect about his life. He is quoted to have told in later life a friend who was to visit New England for the first time, see you and see you New England. See us and you see New England. हमें देखिए, हमें देखने से आपको न्यू इंग्लैंड दिख जाएगा. So this was Robert's married life, which came off to a good start, and he landed a job on a paper as a reporter, a vacation that gave him an occasion to study humans in a variety of situations. But soon tragedy befell in a way of the death of his mother. And a year earlier to the death of his mother, Frost has lost his firstborn, Eliot. And a year later, he was to lose his grandfather. Deep in sorrow at the setbacks, he quit his post as a reporter and settled on grandfather's Frost estate, farming and writing poetry. देखिए जीवन में हम क्या सोचते हैं और क्या हो जाता है, इसलिए कल का ठिकाना नहीं है. जीना है तो जी लीजिए, जिंदगी ना मिलेगी दोबारा. So one should believe in this line कि जीवन एक बार मिला है, जिंदगी ना मिलेगी दोबारा, and you don't know what is to come next. So live life to the full, live life to the least, because you should have that skill, you should have that dream to acquire better, best and best. And it would seem that a farmer was the last man to make a name as a poet. आप क्या सोच सकते थे कि इतना सब कुछ होने के बाद जब वापस वो अपने खेती बाड़ी में और राइटिंग पोइट्री में आ गया, तो वो क्या सोच सकता था वो कल को रॉबर्ट फ्रॉस्ट बनेगा. एंड इंडीड Frost achieved very little as a farmer poet, though the twin vocation of farming and writing poetry remained with him as a pattern of living throughout his life. He worked regularly and for long hours in the dead of the night or early in the day, writing, revising and reading up again and again, and by the time he reached his 31st year, 35 साल का जब हुआ, he had written a bundle of poems, but hardly a dozen of them saw the light of the day. And the few pieces published were not his best. एक poem है जिसका नाम है My Butterfly, which is an elegy. His first poem of significance came out in the Independent. Independent कोई newspaper होगा, and attracted some critical attention. But the American publishers had taken no note of Frost till he suddenly became known in Britain as a poet of considerable ability with the publication of A Boy's Will in 1913. 1890 से लेकर के 1913 तक उसको वेट करना पड़ा जब अमेरिकन पब्लिशर्स ने अ बॉयज विल को पढ़ा. And all of a sudden, it struck Frost that Britain might be the place where he could get a reasonable scope for devising poetry and putting into the market. And the money he got by selling the dairy farm would last him for quite some time, even if he found no means of living in England. Eleanor sided with Frost in his resolve, and the Frost arrived in London in the same year. वापस लंदन, वहां से सब छोड़ छाड़ के यहाँ आ गए. And London proved to be the right climate for Frost's literary taste. Within months of arrival in London, he made a collection of his poems and submitted it to a book publisher without an idea that it would be accepted. A Boy's Will was taken note by Ezra Pound, a great critical man, a great critical force in those days, and he spoke about the book in the very encouraging terms. Pound put Frost in touch with the literary men of the day living in London, and Frost soon became famous as a Yankee poet in the sophisticated literary circles in around London. Could you understand? And he worked patiently and with a view to make his second collection far surpass his first in the nature of the poems and the thematic treatment. And thus came North of Boston. North of Boston. And the book was hailed as a great masterpiece by critics, both in Britain and America. In short, North of Boston, North of Boston, a book of people, as he calls it, which came out in London. And the book, as I told you, it became a great masterpiece. Ezra Pound again wrote a perspective review of it, and the British critic regarded it as one of the most revolutionary books of modern times. And in short, North of Boston at once lifted Frost to the height of his literary reputation. And North of Boston के बाद बहुत जल्दी जल्दी क्विक सक्सेशन में उसकी बहुत सारी पोएम्स का कलेक्शन आया, जिसका नाम है माउंटेन इंटरवेल, न्यू हैम्पशायर, वेस्ट रनिंग ब्रुक, अ फर्दर रेंज, अ मास्क ऑफ रीजन, स्टीपल बुश, अ मास्क ऑफ मर्सी, in the clearing. So these poems were very important poems by Robert Frost. And within months after the publication of North of Boston, the family set sail for America in good spirits. Frost knew that he would no longer have to lead a dull and uneventful life. The entire America was ready to receive him back in the homeland. Even when the frosts were on the high seas, an American edition of North of Boston came into circulation, and Frost had offers of academic chairs from a number of American colleges and universities. But he liked to go boarding around than getting tied to a place. And one such exertion took him to Russia, where he was sent as a representative of the American people by the President Kennedy. However, not all the years between 1913 to 1963 were pleasant and unmixed with sorrow for Frost. His wife died in 1938. Indeed, of the 6 children Frost had, his daughter Leslie alone survived him. 6 में से 5 की डेथ हो गई. Frost died in his sleep peacefully in 1963 at a ripe age of 88. And one of the Frost poems, The Lesson for Today, एक पोएम है उसकी जिसका नाम है द लेसन फॉर टुडे. ये पोएम कंक्लूड करती है अपनी लाइनों से, जो कि कोट किया जा सकता है एज रॉबर्ट फ्रॉस्ट ओन एपिटाफ, हिज ओन एपिटाफ. अब वो लाइंस क्या हैं? वो लाइंस हैं, and where an epitaph to be my story, and where an epitaph to be my story, I have a short one ready of my own. I am again repeating this sentence. And where an epitaph to be my story, I'd have a short one ready for my own. I would have written for me on my stone, I had a lover's quarrel with the world. So it seems that he has written this epitaph for himself. Now I'll just give you some introduction about some important poems which are already there in my study material books. You go today and you open the American literature section with Robert Frost, you will find some of his poems like Blueberries. Like Blueberries एक poem है, उसको आप देखिएगा, where he is writing about the birds and the bees. Then you have the poem Home Burial. Home Burial इसकी बहुत important poem है. Then you have the Birches. Birches poem consists of a series of the beautiful pictures of nature. And then next poem which you should read is Mending Wall, which is a national, international level poem. Mending Wall. And this basically, and other poems also where I have discussed in brief about the details of the poem. So there is nothing very special to deal with these poems here. because those are already written in my books. So students, today I think I have taught you more than enough in this lecture, where the two high level writers like Walt Whitman and Robert Frost have completed with their peculiar identifications, and I'm sure you will now do your homework and would succeed with these writers. So till then, any more questions to ask, students? So you can ask me. If you have any queries, I'm here. So you can ask me immediately. Any questions? Any questions, students? No questions. Okay, then, no questions. So have a very good evening and meet you tomorrow then.